G'day one, g'day all. Welcome to the Daz Talks Footy AFL Draft Q&A. I hope that plenty of you will be able to jump on. The link is right there at the bottom of the screen. You can find it in the YouTube comments as well. You'll be able to click on that, copy that into your browser, and you'll be able to jump on with me live and get your draft questions answered. We're going to have plenty of your comments in as well. The interaction is going to be enormous. I cannot wait for this. Fingers crossed you guys can't either. Covering the draft in 2023 has been a genuinely amazing experience, and in a lot of ways has really kind of made my YouTubing and probably life journey in and of itself a much more positive one. The reception that I've been able to receive from you guys has been absolutely incredible. So if you want to jump on a Daz Talks Footy video and have a chat with me, whether it's about a player, whether it's about your club, future plans, whatever it may be, the link is there. That'll disappear off the screen in just a second. A massive shout out to Smithy, not only the first subscriber on Daz Talks Footy, but the man moderating tonight. So he's going to take care of things behind the scenes as the great man knows how. But you'll be able to do that through the night. I'm going to answer a bunch of your comments as well and get your mates involved. Get them onto the stream. Get them commenting. Get them liking. Get them subscribing, I should say, and we should be good to go. But we're going to get your comments up first because even before we started tonight, you guys were flooding the comments, which is much appreciated. And we will start here. Do we think West Coast should keep pick 1? Yes. My opinion on this will not change until draft day, and then we might see how we go. But even then, I am 99% keep the pick, and the 1% is an offer so good that West Coast would genuinely fold if they don't take it. Could they look to trade next year's first pick? I don't think they should do it this year. I think they might be able to go for an established talent next season. Now, in terms of WA guys that might need to go home, might not be as big a pool as we think it might be, but if I'm West Coast, I'm holding on to that pick for now because I think the only teams that you would really want to negotiate with there might be North Melbourne at 2, 3, Hawthorn at 4, and the Bulldogs at 5. Considering the Bulldogs traded into that pick, would seem pretty silly to trade out of it. Hawthorn, I spoke to Mark McKenzie during the week, and he was pretty adamant that the Hawks are going to take that pick into the draft as well. And North Melbourne want to move up in this draft, not necessarily the next one. And considering Levi Ashcroft's coming through as a potential number 1, you're probably only getting pick 2 in the draft anyway. So fantastic question, but I'm going with keep your picks, keep both your firsts, West Coast, and then get things going from there. But a fantastic question and a fantastic way to start as more and more people jump in. But the first one, Gus, how are you, mate? I'm loving the OKC rep. What have you got for me?
Hey, mate, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Quick question.
Hit me.
With the Saints' first pick, who are they taking, either Tholstrup or Hardiman? Like, who's the better prospect? Who's got the better ceiling, high ceiling?
Oh, that's a good question. So the St Kilda pick for mine is very much a talent versus fit question. So I think Riley Hardiman is the better talent if you're picking the old schoolboy brick wall kind of thing. But I'm not sure if the Saints need another halfback. Which is why I kind of took Tholstrup in my mock draft. And I actually think that they might look at an Ari Schoenmaker, considering that the key defensive back depth at the Saints isn't great. They were shopping Dougal Howard throughout the period as well. I think if they do take Hardiman, I think that tells me that they want to move Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller up the ground, and we know how good of a kick he is. My goodness, haven't seen him live. They've got a good one there. The Saints has been excellent in the draft. Gus, thank you very much for your question. Thanks for jumping on. I hope you can stick around for the end of the stream, and good luck to the Saints in 2024.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you. No, my pleasure. So just like that, guys, you'll be able to jump on just like Gus did, and you'll be able to get your questions answered. A few more comments here. Do you think, say, McKercher and Dersma could have the same impact as Sheasel and Wardlaw? Oh, jeepers, that's a high bar for the Kangaroos. Are they as good? Oh, that's an interesting question. I think Sheasel out of the 4 players is the best of the bunch. I think McKercher's ceiling is massive. I was a little concerned that Dersma didn't do as much in his VFL performances. I know this might sound strange, but I think we overrate VFL performances, really. You think of guys like Nick Dacos and even Wardlaw last year, who didn't really play as much VFL footy, or it wasn't spoken about as much on draft night. I think when you've got these top-end talents, VFL is, and I've spoken to a lot of VFL people, that it is such a weirdly different game than even under 18s and AFL. So I can understand your concerns, but if North are picking the best talent, they're definitely the two that I would go with. But we know Clarko loves drafting talls early. We saw with Roughhead and Franklin. So I'm not discounting Daniel Curtin here, but the concerns around Dersma in the VFL, I don't think you need to stress about that. But are they as good? I think McKercher definitely is involved in the Sheasel and Wardlaw conversation if Wardlaw's healthy. And Dersma is definitely your extremely high ceiling and maybe a little unsure on what his floor is. But if I'm North and you walk away with 2 and 3 with those two gents, with Reed and Walter probably going above them, I think you'd be more than happy with the young call that the Kangaroos are built in. Marcus, thank you very much. Just like that, guys. That's what we're bringing here on Daz Talks Footy. Tom, will we only take 3 players in the draft? Well, there we go. We know that they are a Hawthorn fan. Tom, I'm not 100% convinced that we are going to take Cole Shadir, to be honest. A little bit of rumour that Essendon are interested in one of their picks in the 30s, and I definitely do not think the Hawks are going to match a bid there. Pick 4 and McCabe, you could just about put money on, and depending on what we want to do with some future assets, might be trading into a top 30 selection and taking someone who might not be dear. Kind of like the Hawks did last year, but I think Bailey McDonald was the other guy that we might have traded into the draft and picked up. But I'm maybe 50-50 or maybe even less on the Hawks taking Cole Shadir. So there you go. But pick 4 and McCabe, yeah, lock those two in for sure. Don't think we'll be trading out there at all, us at the Hawks, which would be amazing. Big Mitch, how would I change the NGA rules to make the draft less compromised? Well, Mitch, you've actually jumped on a question I'm going to answer in my next video. But I'll give you the answer now because you've taken your time out to answer the question. Get rid of them all is my answer. If we want a non-compromised draft, then we need to get rid of it all. Free agency compensation needs to go. Father-son bidding needs to go. NGA academies need to go. Simple as that. Everyone is in an open draft. Back your culture in to not let kids go home. West Coast have done it very successfully, only losing Scotty Lysette, Junior Rioli, and I'm sure I'm missing someone in that category there, but it's only 3 players in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Back your culture in, and at the end of the day, there's not too many superstars who end up leaving. I know Judd, Ablett, these guys are going to be the ones that come up, maybe even Danger, but you're going to get a bounty for these guys. So if we're going to make the draft less compromised, I think it needs to be no compromisation at all, or basically where it stands now. So I reckon get rid of it all. Mitch, father-son for mine might be the most overrated thing in footy, in my opinion. There's some controversy to start. Matt here. Do you think Essendon have anyone specific in mind as a possible trade-up? Yep. Zane Dersma. If North don't take Colby McKercher, I think they're going to target that pick 4, and they're going to give up potentially 2 first-round picks off North Melbourne, and they're going to try to pair him with Xavier. I think that's the way to go, and I think it's what they need to do. Yes, they picked up, I think, one of the St Kilda boys. I'm trying to remember whether it was Billings or Gresham. I think it was Gresham off the top of my head. Yeah, it was. Billings is at Melbourne. So they've got some centre forward threat, but Gresham and Stringer, I mean, are we really saying they're going to kick 60 to 70 next year? I'm uncertain. So I would be targeting the best centre forward player in the draft. So I think North would be really clever to take McKercher first and let Essendon try to trade up. I don't think they're going to have anything to entice the Hawks. I don't think they're going to have anything to entice the Dogs. And I think if someone like a Nate Caddy is still there, Melbourne are going to sit tight. And GWS, I mean, might trade out of that spot, but are you really moving up 1 pick? You'd have to be really sure. So if they're going to, I think they're going to try and trade up for pick 4 from North Melbourne. After the Walter bid, I should say. And I think they're going to go and get Zane Dersma. I think that's the key, whether they can or not. Should St Kilda take a risk on Ari Schoenmaker? Yes. I know I didn't mock Schoenmaker to the Saints, but it would be extremely hard not to. It was extremely hard not to mock him to the Saints in my latest video. It was one of those things that made complete sense, and maybe I went a little bit safe there. Who knows? But it would be ridiculously difficult not to. Let's go down that path. You'd be potentially a braver person than I on draft night, which most of the recruiters would be. I think it's fair to say. But yes, I think they should. I don't know if Josh Battle is going to be your centre half back of a premiership side. Definitely don't think Dougal Howard is in favour with Ross the Boss. So yeah, I think bringing another one in is going to be beneficial for the Saints. I love the passion that St Kilda are bringing to the draft this year, and I don't think a club has drafted better in the last 2 years than the Saints. And what's more extraordinary and why I hate draft grades so much, you look at, drafting Wanganeen, Miller and Philippou and Owens and these guys and a couple more that I've obviously missed off the top of my head. But I think they got Ds from Fox Footy in both those draft grades. And if you looked at every club over the last 2 years, I think you would struggle to find a club who's drafted better than St Kilda. Fantastic question, Lily. Thank you so much. The link is there in the comments, guys, if you want to jump on as well. But who do you think wins the trade if North offer pick 2, future first and 15 for 1 and 23? North do, convincingly. Yep, which is why West Coast should not do it. It doesn't make sense for North to give up 23, which sounds crazy, especially when you're getting 2, 15 and a future first. That future first effectively could be, another pick 2. Could, definitely probably will be a top 6 pick, let's be honest. But there is a lot more power that clubs have having the first pick after the first round. So again, I'm not saying it's a pick 1, but you've got first choice on day 2. We know how passionately I think Hawthorn and St Kilda were targeting Matthew Johnson when he was drafted to the Dockers, looking like a better and better player the more we see him. But if I'm the Eagles, not only is the Harley Reid hype such a pull, and the fact that they're going to get better bounties or better returns for him if he does want to go home in 3 years' time, there's not really a standout fit at the Eagles at 15, in my opinion, whereas they're going to get first crack at everyone else at 23. That's an underrated part of these mock trades, that pick 23 from the Eagles. Good question, but I think North genuinely fleeced there, which is insane considering you might be giving up 2 top 5 picks and a pick in the teens, and you're getting, pick 1 and 23 back. I do think a lot of people have learned a lesson from Hawthorn and Freo's trade in 2001. Uncle Daya here. Thoughts on Lance Collard for North? Well, we're on the same page, my friend, because I mocked Lance Collard to North for their first pick of their teens. I love everything about it. Poor Braden George is dislocating his elbow at training after a significant injury last season, but you combine those two with Paul Curtis and Cam Zurhaar, who I think needs to be talked about as a player that's potential is not matching his output at the moment, but they still don't have that centre half forward for Nick Larkey, so they might go down the Richmond 2017 path, have your superstar tall forward, fill them with small, exciting guys, and I think Collard would fit that in a beautiful way. A few more people joining the stream as well, which I thank you very kindly for that. Matt, back again. So Essendon fan Sean Maker reminds me a lot of Dustin Fletcher. I actually like that. What do you think his range is? I think he's at least past 15 for sure. I'd be pretty stunned if O'Sullivan, Sean Maker and Ollie Murphy are off the board by pick 15. I think it would be relatively extraordinary, but I think the Saints are the front runners, as I've spoken about before, even though I didn't mock them. But the Bombers, I think, might be crossing their fingers that Connor O'Sullivan makes it past the Cats. And I think it could be down to whoever's still on the board out of Darcy Wilson, Caleb Windsor, and Connor O'Sullivan. And if I was a Bombers fan, I would be praying to whatever deity you support there and hoping that COS is still there. I love this kid. And Mark McVeigh said the same thing. So, Matt, couple of ripping Essendon questions. I thank you very much for that, my friend. But if you do want to join the stream before I get to this next question, the link is in the YouTube comments. You can copy that into your browser, jump on as well. You can get all your draft questions answered in person. Let's have a look here from Lily with St Kilda's second pick. Should they take Ashton Moyer? Well, that's who I mocked in the draft. So yes, he'd be a good replacement for Gresham. And not only that is, I think he would let Dan Butler get up the ground a little bit more when he was at his best at Richmond. And yes, his best goals output was his first year at the Saints. I understand that, but I think Dan Butler at his best can play the up and back style very well. I think he'll be able to play as a forward 60-65 player as opposed to what I think he was last year, which was just a front 40 player. And I think Ashton Moyer fits that bill in a big way. And if you have a St Kilda forward line of Max King, Tim Membry, and then you add Moyer to Butler, Higgins, and Philippou as he still tries to develop into a ready-made AFL midfielder, which I think he will, and he will be a star, Mateus Philippou. Ashton Moyer to the Saints makes a lot of sense to mine, and I wouldn't discount a Cohen Sanchez there who might be around that mark. I think he will be on the board at that point if someone does take a risk on Ashton Moyer, and I don't think it's that too much of a risk for Ashton. Incredibly clever player, but probably didn't have the best on-ground performances that a lot of guys might have in the back end of the year that may shift these power rankings, as you see, whether it's, a Cal Toomey Phantom Draft, ESPN, Rookie.me, and Zero Hanger is the other one that stands out as well. But Ashton Moyer to the Saints is a massive tick for mine, Lily. Fantastic question. How about the Saints fans? Just absolutely getting involved, which we love. Joel, what do you think the Crows do in the draft? I think they take all three of their picks. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for the Crows to trade back. I'm massive on the Crows next year. Joel, if you are a Crows man, I'm going to assume that you are because you've gone with the Crows here. I've already made a video on why they're going to be top 4 next year. I am standing by that until maybe round 1 starts, knock on wood that there are no injuries or anything like that. I think their first pick, they're going to target a Darcy Wilson or a Caleb Windsor. I am reasonably confident it's going to be one of those two players. As they've got an aging midfield, these guys can play on the outside, so that's going to be absolutely fine. I think they would sprint to the podium if they could get George Stevens in the door as well as your inside mid, the replacement for Crouch and Sloan once he's really ready to go, and he could be ready to go round 1. My goodness. And then I think their last pick, they're going to take best talent available, but Chu Giath, who I mocked for the Crows in their third pick, is your Tom Duday replacement, essentially, and hopefully a bit healthier than Tom was in the last 3 years at the Crows, would be enormous. I understand a lot of Crows fans are going to want a key defender. I understand they might target an Ollie Murphy or an Ari Schoenmaker, which makes a lot of sense. It really does. But if you're telling me right now, this year, who do I want in a Crows jersey? Ari Schoenmaker or George Stevens? I'm really tempted to say George Stevens. I think this guy is Tom Green 2.0, and I hate player comparisons. And my man Smithy, who's moderating right now, who you can't see on camera, is probably rolling his eyes at the fact that I've done that. But I'm buying all of the George Stevens stock late in this draft, and I hope the Crows pick him up because he's not going to be a number 1 or 2 mid, but when he's ready to go, look out. This kid's coming. But the Crows are going to look for fast players, I think, dynamic, able to play multiple positions for at least 2 out of those 3, and I think they're going to take their picks as they come. Joel, fantastic question. Fingers crossed you can stick around for the end of the go. Jacob, good Hawthorn man himself, looking at Sanders. I don't think so at all, Jacob. I think it was Chris Kavanagh who went with it on Twitter today, but Dersma and Curtin are players who fill their needs. Absolutely, they do. As a good Hawthorn man myself, but I think, honestly, our pecking order is Dersma, Curtin, O'Sullivan, and then you're looking at your Watsons, your Caddies, your potentially Sanders. I would be stunned if we take a pure midfielder with our first pick. I know we were looking at Bailey Smith, but if you're going to add to a midfield with John Newcomb, Connor Nash, James Warple, Will Day, these guys that are able to rotate through there. Don't forget Connor McDonald was drafted as a midfielder as well. We've seen Dylan Moore attend centre bounces as well. I would think a 21-year-old that Bailey Smith is, or 22, would be the better fit than another 18-year-old to try to get through. So, no, I have high doubts that the Hawks are going to take Riley Sanders, Jacob, but I appreciate you jumping on, and the tribute to Kobe there, absolutely enormous. We love him. More Srom, hope I'm pronouncing that right. Apart from the guy you mentioned in your Phantom Draft, what other options would Giants have with their second pick? Oh, that's interesting. The Giants' second pick, I think, is around the 15 mark. I had them taking Watson first from memory. I don't actually remember who I went with second. So maybe I do mention again. I apologize for that. Giants' second pick, I think they're definitely going to look at talent first. I think they like Lee Kalir a lot. So considering they've got Sam Taylor, Jack Buckley, they've kept Lockie Keefe for another year as insurance. So maybe Lee Kalir's not quite ready yet, but I don't think they're going to go down that key defender path. They definitely don't need a key forward with Hogan, Riccardi, Himmelberg can swing both ends of the ground as well. So for talls, they're okay. I don't think they're going to take a ruckman in this spot. So they're going to take either best outside mid, outside player, or potentially a half forward type. I wouldn't be surprised if they went for Lance Collard here, to be totally honest with you. And that's providing they don't take Nick Watson first, which again is a lot of machinations. I understand. I apologize if this is a little bit confusing, but let's say they take Nick Watson first. Then I think they go for an outside player. Definitely do. Maybe a Riley Hardiman, for example, or they might go a Colton Tholstrop. Really? Do they really target that center forward part of the ground? Definitely. But the Giants right now are in a beautiful spot. If they don't take Nick Watson with their first pick, I think they're going to take a forward definitely. They might end up taking 2, but I think we can rest easy, or the Giants fans can rest easy in knowing that your first 2 picks won't be talls. Or if they are, they must really like them. But I don't have a feeling that they're going to take a Giants player. A tall player at all. They will definitely take a Giants player. They'll take 2 of them. So I appreciate that. Richmond a chance to select George Stevens, or is there an obvious target to select? Michael, I would love to tell you that Richmond are a chance, but their first pick is way too late, in my opinion. I don't see how Stevens can get past the clubs that are just before it. I don't see how he can get past your GWSs on it. Well, they've got Tom Green. Do you really need 2 Tom Greens? I'd like 1 Tom Green, to be honest, at my club, but is he really going to get past maybe even a St Kilda as they rejuvenate that midfield? Although, can he play with Jack Steele? These kind of questions. But, you got North there. You've even got a Collingwood there who could take best talent available. It's still possible. Even Carlton could look at him as well. I think it's borderline impossible for the Tigers to have George Stevens on the board. But hypothetically, if he's there or the Tigers can have an opportunity to trade up for him, I would do it because his talent is so high. But I think if the Tigers do it, it is a genuine kick to the face to the Jacob Hopper acquisition. I mean, they've given this guy 7 years. Richmond don't have a first-round pick this year or next year or a second-round pick next year because of the Taranto-Hopper trade. Now, Taranto wins your best and fairest. That's a tick automatically. So we don't need to worry about Timmy T. I know some people don't like his ball use, but, good luck to you. He won Richmond's best and fairest. That's a win for a trade. But I think if you go into all of the draft concessions that Richmond sort of gave up, well, not concessions, but the draft picks that Richmond gave up to the Giants, and then 1 year after that experiment, you go and take an inside mid. Ooh, I don't know how Richmond fans would feel about that, but I'm fairly confident George Stevens won't be at the Tigers. I think their best case scenario is Logan Morris. They've got their smalls there. They've got Lynch. They've got Jacob Kazitsky from the Hawks, which they'll hope never plays in the ruck. Cozzy's best footy at the Hawks was when he wasn't a second ruckman, was forced to do it on a lot of occasions. But I think having that third tall, the comparison to Jack Gunston's easy, but when you've got a guy who's 192 centimetres that hits up at the footy, a beautiful kick and can handle himself in one-on-one, so much so he was full forward of the under-18 All-Australian team, that's your guy. Logan Morris to the Tigers makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, it also makes a lot of sense for Carlton, and they've got to pick ahead of the Tigers, which is a shame. Let's go back to Mitch. Heard a rumour that Angus Hasty has been linked to the Eagles, or Hasty, I should say, sorry. Do you think he will be there at their third pick? I definitely think he can be. He wasn't in my 40. Angus, I don't know why. I think I tend to underrate medium defenders in the draft, which is incredible considering Blake Hardwick plays for my football club. I do like him as a player. I do think he will be there. I think the Eagles would do well to get him. Positionally, maybe not something that the Eagles are looking for, but considering they need talent in the door quickly, and if they are going to take 1, 23, and 37, you're going to need the 3 best guys on the board at that point, and we've talked about the first 2 picks a little bit already tonight. I think it's a good option. I really do. I do think they're going to look at the man known as Double Z, and I can't pronounce Zabastelsky. I actually think I've nailed that. If I haven't, someone can correct me. I think they're going to look at him as well. I do think the Eagles are going to take 1 tall in their draft this year, and I think they need to. When you're rebuilding, you've just got to put some effort into a tall, because if he hits, great, and if he doesn't, well, depends where you take him in the draft, but. And I'm not saying Zane in this scenario, but if you do take a tall at 37 and it's a bit of a miss, I mean, West Coast fans may not like it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. But if the Eagles are really into him, I think he'll be there, medium defender. I think he'll do a really good job. I hope he has a very long career. Fantastic question. I love the Eagles in this draft. I'm just really excited for what they do. What range? So let's fix that. We're not on mute anymore. Lovely. Where do I see Kane McAuliffe? He wasn't in my 40, but he was in my sort of honourable mentions list that I really wanted to put in the 40. I really like him. I really liked him in July, August. And then it just became other guys again. We're having these BOG performances that he wasn't having. And the guy that I really feel for in this scenario, and I think it was last year, was Mitch Zibkowski, who was your good, honest footballer, but he wasn't having the BOG performances. And I think going into draft night, Cal Toomey had him ranked at 22. I mocked him in the top 25, and the poor bloke didn't get drafted. So what range do I see him in? I see him in the 40s. We'll go from 38 to 50, around that range. But considering 55 guys get picked, I think they're going to get picked this year, 55 to 60. I think he'll end up on a list. I think he'd be an absolute bargain as a rookie pick. But I think he'll be there when the whips are cracking in that 35-plus range, and I think a club would do very well to get him. Played 7 reserves games and played them quite well, I saw. So a few more people entering the chat, which I love. Hopefully Collingwood would take one of Archer Reed or Logan Morris from Mark. I agree. Logan Morris at their pick would be a bit of a risk, but if there's one club that can take a risk in the draft, let me tell you, it's the reigning premier. I agree. I think Archer Reed to the Pies. I think I've mocked 3 of the last 4 drafts, and it just makes perfect sense. But who am I to tell Collingwood? And believe me, I've tried, people. Who am I to tell Collingwood to draft a tall forward? They're the reigning premier. They're absolutely fine. But yes, I'm with you. I hope Collingwood take Archer Reed first of all, and then Logan Morris is your Brody Myercheck 2.0 in terms of role. Great comment there, Mark, and I hope you're a very happy man as a Pies supporter. My thoughts on this year draft, deep one or... I mean, I'm a positive person when it comes to the draft. I'll probably think every draft is deep. In terms of 200-plus gamers, potentially not that deep. Potentially not. I love the top 12 in this draft more than I do last year's crop, and they were pretty damn good. So that's saying something. But I think like last year, and I know we're still post-COVID, by a couple of years now, I think we're still got, club, pick a club, pick another club. Their pecking order after the first 12, I think, are going to look remarkably different, extremely different. More different than we've seen sort of in modern times, which tells me that there might be 35, 40 guys that are on everyone's board, and then there might be, from there. So I'm muting myself, but I don't want to do that. But I think Taylor Goad is going to might be picked 25. For another club, you might be 45. So does that make it deep or maybe consistent? I'm not sure. I don't know why I keep going on mute. I apologise for everyone jumping on. Hopefully that's working now, but hopefully it's working now. Fingers crossed it's working now. I don't like jumping out on mute. I want to talk to you guys. But a fantastic question. Thanks, Uncle. I don't think it's going to be that deep of a draft, but I think plenty of clubs are going to have really different talent lists. Lily, who could be a slider in the draft? Ooh, that's a good question. Who do I see being a bit of a slider? I think Sydney fans are currently screaming Caden Cleary at the top of their lungs. Actually, a guy who I think might slide for a few clubs is actually going to be an Archie Roberts type. I feel like he's the kind of player, midfield, played a little bit off half-back, did both well, don't get me wrong. But considering I think he's the kind of guy who maybe doesn't know where his best position is, some clubs are really going to agree, some are not. Whether they're at the mark remains to be seen. But I think in terms of guys that might have the biggest range of where they could go in the draft, he stands out as well, I don't think he's to the Hawks. That's not why I'm saying it. As another guy as well, Cohen Sanchez stands out as well as a guy that some clubs might see higher than the other. I don't think we're going to have someone circa Arlo Draper, who I think was number 15 on Cal Toomey's list the month that he was drafted. He ended up going 40s. I don't think we're going to have that big of a slide on draft night, but I'm looking forward to seeing who it is. I really am. But if I had to say one, I think a guy like Archie Roberts might go, and it won't even be his fault. So, fantastic question. I'm loving this, guys. If Roberts, Schoenmaker, and Giath are all available at North's later first-round pick, who would you take? Schoenmaker, not even close. Not because of talent, although talent is remarkably good. You've lost Ben Mackay. Griffin Logue's going to be out for the year. Go get a key back. Pretty simple. When you got 5 first-round picks, you've got to take best fit and best position. Sean Maker does it more than the other two. Rory, I hope that answers your question short, sharp, and succinctly. All right, Justin, where do I see? Some trouble with my connection here, guys. I apologise. We'll get this right by the time we do another one. Hopefully we do. But I think Nate Caddy is going to end up at Melbourne at pick 6, Justin, just after the Hawks. I think he's the perfect fit. I think the Giants would be praying he gets there. I don't blame them for hoping that. But Nate Caddy, I don't think he gets part. I think the latest he could go, honestly, is the Giants at pick 7. So hopefully that answers that question right quite nicely. Lily back again, just about the MVP tonight. Lily been fantastic in the chat. Should Freo take Mitch Edwards? No, not when they've kept Sean Darcy and not really put him on the not really shopped him around, if I can use an NFL term there. So when you've not shopped him around, you've kept Luke Jackson for obvious reasons. I think they're going to roll with those two and one of their recently drafted guys, Eric. I can't think of his last name. I think it's like Bemming or something. Someone will correct me on that. I'm sure. I think they might have as their insurance, and then go from there. You'd have to be pretty unlucky for both of those guys to get long-term injuries at around the same time, I think. So in terms of talent, Freo do need to get the most talented guy in at their pick because their first pick, because they got the 3 first-rounders, is in the 30s. But I think they'll be looking at the best forward half player. I don't think that's Mitch Edwards at all. But I love Mitch Edwards in a big, big way. One of my favourites, which I put in that video. Lily, fantastic question. Jason here, with all the recent midfield draftees by Ruse, like Wardlaw, Powell, Phillips, great list, Lazaro, we can add to that as well, Sheasel, and so on. Trade up 15 and 18 to get Cat's first pick. I'm with you totally. Tick that off. Draft Sullivan, Curtin potentially, and use the Cats pick to get Murphy. Wow. 3 key backs in one draft would be incredible. If they do get the Cats pick, I think you could almost lock in that they take Daniel Curtin at that spot because you are gambling that Connor O'Sullivan would still be there, and 15 and 17 or 15 and 18, whatever combination that Geelong want, I think is potentially a reach on Ollie Murphy. But if you like him enough, I mean, who am I to say no? But they definitely won't take 2. I don't think they'll take 2 key backs, even if they do have 2, 3, 15, 17, 18. They definitely could. They could take Curtin and Sean Maker if they keep their picks as they are. But if you're telling me North are going to have 2, 3, 8, and in this example, pick 17, I think 2 or 3 will be Daniel Curtin there, and then they're going to take the guys they like the best at 8 and 17. So likely maybe a Darcy Wilson type, Caleb Windsor, these guys that are going to be around that mark would be really good because you wouldn't have to start them in the midfield. So you're not messing with that midfield balance that the Kangas have already got. You can start Colby McKercher on the opposite wing to Bailey Scott and Taron Thomas and rotate that way, or a halfback flank with Joshy Goda and these guys. And then you've got your 2 pillars, and then you'll be able to go from there. But no, I think it's highly unlikely they take all 3 key position players off the board. It would be a very Clarko thing to do, though, obviously with Roughhead and Franklin in that infamous 2004 draft. What a draft that was. Michael again, would I consider Mitchell Edwards or Will Green to Richmond, considering Nane Curvis is aging and Ivan Soldo has been left without, lost Soldo, I should say, and has been left without a regular backup ruckman? Yeah, I think it would depend on how much they like Samson Ryan. I think they like him more as a forward, but if they did, why do you go get Cozzy? These are the kind of questions that you ask. In terms of talent, if Mitch Edwards is there, it might be difficult for Richmond to go after, but I think a lot of their preferred players would have to go off the board for Mitch Edwards to end up at Richmond. That's my instinct. I think Nan Curvis, Samson Ryan, I don't know whether they've got another pure ruckman on their list, but they might use their later picks. Maybe Taylor Goad will still be there, which would be insane for the Tigers because I don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. But if I had to give it maybe a 1 to 10, I'll say 5, which sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but I think he would be high in their sort of preferred picks, but I definitely think there'd be guys that are better fit ahead of him. And I'm putting not significant, but maybe considerable eggs in the Mitch Edwards will be the best ruckman in this draft. And I think Ethan Reid is going to be spectacular. And if I was Richmond, honestly, I would wait the year out and knock on wood you don't get ruck injuries. And then I would be ringing Gold Coast and going, what do you want for Ned Moyle? Get Ned Moyle in a Richmond jumper. You've already got your draft pick here. So if it's a Logan Morris or a small forward that you really, really like, that's the way that I do it for Richmond. The problem you've got there is that if Gold Coast don't want to hand over Ned Moyle, you might be in a little bit of trouble. There's not too many backup ruckmen not really getting a game at this point now that Matt Flynn will go join Bailey Williams at West Coast. So if it's not Ned Moyle, if someone can come up with another ruckman who might struggle for time, Lloyd Meek at the Hawks maybe? Ned Reeves, number one. The club really like Max Ramsden as, your David Hale type. But yeah, I'd be going after Ned Moyle for sure. Philly Nation, do you think Hawthorn should trade back? No. If Dersmer isn't there. Curtin or O'Sullivan. Since we're getting McCabe already, it might not make sense to take Curtin. Also, Watson wouldn't make sense either. I agree with the Nick Watson thing. I know the talent is really there, but it doesn't make sense for the Jack Ginnivan trade. I agree with you. Even though Luke Bruce is retiring, the club really likes Sam Butler. We've still got Bennett and Jack O'Sullivan, who is the best preseason celebrator of a goal I've ever seen. Jack O'Sullivan. So I already love him, and he hasn't played a game yet for the Hawks. He's already one of my favourites. But I agree with you that it doesn't make sense, but I think there's no downside to having another key back there. There's no downside for mine. Even with Will McCabe, because his body's not ready and won't be ready for a while. Whereas Curtin is more, he's built bigger than Will is, and I think Connor O'Sullivan is built bigger as well. So my worry, if there is a worry with Will McCabe, is are we drafting another guy who's closer to James Sicily than he is to James Blank? And what I mean is the stopping opponent versus intercept defending. Because that was the worry with Denver originally, is that he was an intercept defender that could stop his opponent. That was the draft profile. Now, for a variety of reasons, Denver is not Hawthorn centre half back. But as we look at it now, the Hawks probably realise that they got an intercept defender that they're now trying to transform into a different part of the ground. Now, Will McCabe can play forward, but we're not drafting him as a forward. Otherwise, you wouldn't go get Marby or Chol and Gunners back. So I think we're going to stash Will McCabe away. And then if you give me a defender room of Curtin / O'Sullivan, pick one of those, blank McCabe, let James Sicily be the All-Australian intercepting defender for the next 5 years, and, get Blake Hardwick shutting down blokes, Joshy Weddle and Seamus Mitchell streaming out of that back line. I'm one happy Hawks fan, let me tell you. My goodness, great question. Why do you think the Crows will not take a tall defender with its first pick? I think there's going to be too much talent on the board that's not a tall defender, to be honest with you. If the Crows really do like Ollie Murphy, then they're going to take Ollie Murphy. Okay, it's not that it's an impossibility, and that's not what I want Crows fans to think here. But if they're confident that a tall defender might be at their second or third pick of their 3 top 20s, I'm just not sure they bite the bullet first, because I don't think you've got the talent of Wilson, Windsor, and these guys further back. I think the quality of key defender is going to be better at their next 2 picks than the quality of midfielder forward might be at their first pick. Rick, but if they're really into Ollie Murphy and he's their guy, it's still a win. And that's why I love the Crows. It's why I love their first pick scenario. Is if they've decided Ollie Murphy is their guy, amazing. Fills a need, very good key defender, no problem there at all. And if they want a Windsor or a Wilson, they're still going to have the option of Ari at their next selection. So I probably don't take a tall first. Unless they really love Ollie Murphy, in which case, awesome. But if I'm sitting in the chair, I think the Crows should read out Windsor or Wilson's name before they read out Ollie Murphy's. I could be wrong, and I'll put my hand up. But that's probably the order that I would do it in. I really would. Who do you think might be a big bolter? Oh, well, Philly, I was really hoping And I've got AJ Brown as an anytime touchdown scorer tomorrow. So if you can will me on there, mate, I'll appreciate it. Big bolter. Ooh. I think a guy like Taylor Goad. I think the bolters in this draft are going to be bigs. I really do. So maybe even a Mitch Edwards. You know, do the Crows go for a backup to Riley O'Brien with one of their 3 picks? Could they go a tall back, a midfielder, and a ruckman with their 3 picks, even though they've got Riley Thilthorpe? Who knows? But a big bolter, I'm definitely looking at the bigs here. Archer Reed, I'm looking at Taylor Goad, I'm looking at Mitch Edwards, Will Green, definitely up there. Logan Morris, potentially, if the Pies do take a shot on him first, I think might be a bit of a bolter there. But in terms of where I'm seeing this guy ranked, maybe it's because we want to spite the NGA, but I think Hayden Cleary is going to go a lot earlier than his power rankings might suggest. I keep seeing him in the 35 to 40 range. I think it's ludicrous if other clubs let him get that far, for not only that Sydney have got to pay up, but for the talent that he possesses. Incredible contested player, Hayden Cleary is. So, bigs. Philly, back to Mitch. I'm just wondering how Gold Coast afford all their academy players. Only have 3,800 points. Jed Walter will go at 2. Yep. Reed top 10 and Rogers first round. They'll be about 500 points short. Well, Mitch, you can go into a deficit. You really can, and it'll cost you picks the next year. So that's how they'll be able to do that. I also don't believe that they get the 20% discount. I believe that's father-son only. So I think they're just going to swallow the fact that they'll take a deficit and just, they get their 3 guys in. And Will Graham, you got to remember who who will be bid on maybe around the 30s mark, maybe 40, 45-ish mark there. I think they're just going to swallow that, give up some picks that don't really matter in the 2024 draft, and they're going to come out of this draft and the next one with potentially 4 or 5 first-round draft picks, which is nuts because they've got the Bulldogs' first pick next year as well in that pick 4 trade. So they'll make it work. They'll go into a deficit, they'll make it work, and they won't really care. Really. All right. So we've hit the 40-minute mark. So I think we're going to stop in the next sort of 5 minutes. So if you've jumped on, whether you've asked questions or not, really appreciate that. Don't go anywhere yet. We're going to get a few more in. But just before we do, a massive shout out to the great man, Smithy, who is moderating at the moment and doing a fantastic job. The great man. We go back to Rory. Do you think night 1 of the draft will have more draft picks than night 2? That is a very good question because I expect 28 guys to go in the first round, which is ridiculous. It is. We have 18 clubs. So that's 18 kids. We're going to have 6 academy picks. So that boosts it out to 24. Will McCabe and Jordan Croft makes it 26. I had Caden Cleary in the first round of my mock draft, makes it 27. It's ridiculous. And you've got the Adelaide and St Kilda, maybe? We got end of first round compensation. I definitely know St Kilda did, Carlton did, Adelaide did. So, yeah, I expect 28 first round picks. There is a very good chance that happens, Rory. If there's only going to be 55 to 60 kids taken, you might be bang on the money, which would just take a second into how compromised this draft is, that is even a possibility. Can you imagine 10 years ago in the 2013 draft, right, with 18 clubs thinking 35 kids are going to get picked for it to have been first round more than any other? It's crazy. Michael, last question of yours. If Adelaide had the choice of either Caleb Windsor or Darcy Wilson, geez. That's like asking me which hand do I want to cut off. Neither's the preferable. I like to keep both. In terms of fit and what Adelaide need to do moving forward, I think Caleb Windsor has better scoreboard impact, and I think that's what the Crows need. But I mean, you're basically asking me, would I rather find a $50 note in my pants pocket or 2 20s and a 10? At the end of the day, you're getting a very good player no matter what. But if it's up to those, and I appreciate the question, I'm taking Caleb Windsor to the Crows. First of all, Michael, you've been a star tonight, as has everyone that has jumped in. I would have loved a few more to have jumped on live. Gus did earlier. But, hey, we're just getting started with these. But the question that I kind of want to ask you guys is hopefully we get a few more comments in. is, do you want another one of these? Hopefully with an upgraded camera from my point of view. But if you enjoyed it, do we want to do another one? Another two? Closer to? Is this something we could see throughout the 2024 season on a Sunday night? Maybe after games are done, we can all sit here and chew the fat about the footy that's taken place. I don't want to do any content at all that you guys don't want to watch. So that's why I rely on you to let me know. I'll come up with the ideas and you give me the yes, no's. All right, that's how I want this to work. So if it's something that you might want, you're going to have to let me know, whether it's in the comments of this or when I put posts up in the community chat or anything like that, then you've got to let me know. The other thing, before we get to hopefully some last questions, my next video will not be a draft video. There's been a lot of draft content in the last sort of 2 weeks, so I'm going to go not draft for one video. So hopefully you watch that and the YouTube algorithm helps us. And I appreciate the support for you guys wanting another one. So we will definitely be doing that. But we're going to go one video tomorrow, not draft related. So please still watch that. I'll pump it out and promote it heavily. So if you enjoy my videos, please watch that one as well. And then we're going to get back into some draft stuff. And then we'll hopefully live stream there. Will I live stream the draft, Lily? Absolutely, I will. It would be a little strange, I reckon, for me to do all these mock drafts and then not react to it live. I'd love to do guests. I don't discriminate, or it's me on my own. We'll figure it out one way or the other. My fear with the draft is how long between picks it takes. I'm not 100% sure if, we think of day one and just pick a pick 12, right? Whoever may get pick 12 because of bids and all this sort of thing. That's not going to happen for an hour from when it starts. So is me rambling on for an hour and for 5 minutes between picks something that you guys want? I mean, I would love that. But I definitely do want to live stream at least day one, and we'll go from there. Absolutely. Fingers crossed you guys can join. So just about to wrap it up, do I go for a specific NFL team, Dads? I sure do, my friend. And you're going to like this because you got the dub over us. I'm a Finns man. Yeah, so you guys did a number on us. Your defensive line was very good, put Tua under pressure, and you got the dub. That Jalen Hurts throw to A.J. Brown late in that game. Oh, my goodness. But yes, I'm a Finns man. And Smid, the moderator at the moment, he's a Panthers man. So let's just prayers up for Smid, I think. Jacob, love these streams. Great for the footy community. And, mate, you nailed it on the head of why I want to do this. And it's why I also say in my videos to, join the Daz Talks Footy family, because I think my frustration and pretty much the reason why I wanted to do YouTube in the first place is I was really frustrated at the mainstream media trying to do everything quickly. So they'll cover a topic for about 8 minutes because there's so many things happening, right? And so many things are happening because we live in a social media world. Everyone wants to click this, click that. What's the stupidest thing I can say? Let's throw that out there. And that's kind of how the footy media landscape works at the moment. Whereas my entire goal, and whenever I write out a video or a stream or anything like that, is what do I want footy fans talking about? Or what do I think footy fans want to talk about? That's it. That is my entire creative process. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. That's fine. I don't take it personally. You guys are the greatest judges in the world. That's what the footy community is for. And if mainstream media isn't going to listen to us, content creators can. So great for the footy community, man, is probably the best compliment you can give me, and I'm much appreciative of that. No, Colin, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think you've signed me off beautifully. But what I'm going to do quickly, just before we go, is you guys have asked me some magnificent questions. I've asked you a couple of questions. But I want the main man himself, the moderator tonight and the absolute superstar. Smid, I want you to jump in here quickly, mate, because I've got a question for you that I want you to answer tonight. So jump in, great man. Hopefully you can do it reasonably quickly. Here he is, the great man himself, the behind-the-scenes expert, mate. First of all, thank you. And I'll probably say it about 8 more times after. But I want to ask you the first question that was asked. If you're West Coast, I know what you're like. You're not trading it until draft day. I get that. But draft day, North Melbourne want pick 1. Mm-hmm. What do you as a West Coast list manager give up? Or what do you want in order to get Harley Reid? What does it take for you as West Coast to give up pick 1? What do you want from North considering it can only be drafted. I'd be asking for Nick Larkey in pick 2, personally.
Yeah, look, it would have to be multiple firsts this year and
So is that 2 and 3?
It's definitely 2 and 3. Yeah. 2 and 3 this year, and then a first next year and the year after that. I'd be after 4.
Okay, I don't think you can trade 2 years out. So would you want, does 2, 3, 15 and a future first get it done?
Yeah, I think something like that. But I'm firmly and have been firmly in the camp for a long time. Don't trade it.
Yeah.
If he comes out and he is a star and he wants to go home, you're going to get even more than you possibly would have dreamt of on draft night.
We are so on the same page here.
So just keep him around and just see how it goes. Who knows? He might love it over there. It's just not worth trading on the night.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. So Smithy, a massive thank you to you behind the scenes fans. Massive thank you to you. Thank you so much for jumping on. Share this with a footy loving mate if they couldn't make it tonight, because I think it'll still age really, really well. Get your mates involved. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy community. We will be doing another one because this was a lot of fun. New video coming out tomorrow, non-draft related, but I think footy fans are really going to get behind it. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for jumping on.